and have that hope for the future, Janko.
Thanks, and also that, what you said there, focus on what you can control. I think very often, we spend so much time, as you rightfully said, on those things that's outside of your control, and I'm guilty there. Like every single day, I check the stats, the numbers, the reproduction rates, and it creates such negativity in my mind that literally yesterday I almost climbed off, unfollowed all the things that is giving me the stats, because it's not helping me. It's not helping my mental health. So what is that brings you hope? What is those things, those small little milestones that you can look forward to in these times of uncertainty? And I think great practical advice shared. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. I want to hear and invite Dr. Claudi in to also share his thoughts on really creating that space where you can be vulnerable, maybe adding a little bit further. And I think one thing is, Dr. Claudia, that I know you're quite passionate about is the concept of engagement as well. If we find yourself in an environment where you cannot speak up, we see that there's a direct correlation between people actually resigning, people leaving and seeking greener pastures. It drops in engagement, and we all know what the research says, that is associated with lower engagement. Is how do we create that space then where you can say, look, I don't know, I'm struggling, I'm coping. Let's hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Janko, once more. Let me go back a step backwards to take you through the presentation earlier that you made. And one of the things that you mentioned about the capabilities is enabling the execution. And I would like to take a bit of a journey in linking that pillar of, the enabling execution, because the unfortunate situation is that at this point in time in our country, even before the pandemic, the mental health was an issue. Even before the pandemic, the statistics and the reflection of our country, for an example, is an unfortunate situation that mental health became the key issue within our working space. Now it has been compounded by the pandemic as we speak now. Then you find leaders being wanting in their own space because they are now being forced to become the tools that will enable their teams to be productive and effective. And until such time that as a leader you become a catalyst that will create that conducive environment for your team to perform, you will then be enabling or failing your staff or your team to actually become engaging with you. And I am tempted here a little bit, you say, Janko, to talk about, few things, because the unfortunate situation is if we are not going to be leaders that will accept that in our own space, with the title that you have, you become an employee and a human being before. And as you go on, you need to be changing the mindset, changing and creating a positive environment as a leader so that the mental space of your team could be positive, so that at the end of the day, you give them an opportunity that will bring good news for you and that will bring a collective approach. Because gone are the days whereby mental health was supposed to be an individual issue. It has now become a collectiveness where all of us, within our social space, within our workspace, we're supposed to be engaging one another. And you said and put another question there in terms of, because at the end of the day, many a times, our own team members resort to withdrawal because I, as a leader, or I, as a team leader, I have not created a conducive space enough for them to can be vulnerable with me. Because at the end of the day, continuous open communication becomes an important factor so that we can begin to be in a good space of mind to engage one another and bring the results. Let me pause there, Janko, because I think there are two things that I've picked up here in this discussion, because If I'm a leader and I'm not an enabler, if I'm a leader, I'm not a catalyst. Unfortunately, my team is not going to perform the way I want it to perform. Therefore, this vulnerability of me being a leader suggests that and compound me that I should actually be a catalyst, an enabler in the midst to make sure that we deal with and navigate the mental health problem and making sure that our team members do not resort to a resignation or leave the team. Thank you, Django.
I love the words that you use there, Kusana, that catalyst, and that, you know, it's so cliched, but it is so true. You need to lead by example first. You know, if you're not willing to speak up and you're in a leadership position, you know, that is the first step to create psychological safety, is to be vulnerable yourself. Cannot expect others to be if you're not. And I want to invite Lamona in here now as well, but I also want you, Lamona, to sort of start diving into the third component that we want to talk a little bit about. So it's both. So I think there's a nice little transition here, as again, looking at the concept of psychological safety, speaking a little bit about the power of mental health, seeing it as a collective. But also in the same vein, if you have that type of environment, if you've got that psychologically safe environment, it is a lot easier, in our experience and opinion, to really leverage the power of diversity. So how can we create that space where people can speak up around mental health challenges, but also how do you create that space where, as a leader, the team, the system that you create, that they embrace people's unique identities, circumstances, the value add, and how do you know that you've got it right? How do you know that you have created a psychologically safe space where diversity is appreciated, where there is inclusivity, where you're not just invited to the party, but you're also invited to dance? You know, if I can borrow that quote.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Janko. So some of the things that are coming to mind for me around psychological safety and its link to diversity is the reality that many of our colleagues face that we may not be aware of. So everyone comes from a different worldview, different past experiences. And some people have been taught to cover parts of their identity in order to show up in a certain way and be accepted. And when that happens, and you have a whole workforce who is doing that, it's called covering, you know, there's this huge emotional burden of needing to cover that part of you, needing to hide, you know, this is my circumstance at home. I'm a single mom. I can't let my manager know that. I can't let them know that I've just been through a divorce. I can't let them know that I'm in a difficult relationship, because that's going to impact the way they look at me and my job opportunities and how people view my capability at work, because people link or they place an assumption on that circumstance of that person. And so I think psychological safety is creating that environment where people can bring, as Mashuda said, bring to work who they are completely, because that helps us understand them. It helps us to understand how they show up, why they respond a certain way in a meeting, how they react to that workload or that engagement or that interaction. And that enhanced understanding only improves work productivity. It improves team dynamics. But where you have an environment where people are only supposed to show the parts of their life that are Iron Man and applauded by the world, then you are missing out on the other part of that person. And for me, it's about having empathy and recognizing that person's reality and understanding that my worldview and my circumstances is not what everyone else experiences. An example, a case in point, is some of the young mothers that I worked with, especially from the Morocco region. When the lockdown happened and they had the strict lockdown in Morocco, there was no schooling. And so they had to take care of their children, also from some of the Middle Eastern cultures. There was an expectation from the in-laws that the people lived with to serve a hot breakfast in the morning, even during working hours. make sure the children are homeschooled, make sure there's a hot cooked lunch, tea time needs to be served. Like there was this burden on them because of the cultural norms. And when there was poor performance, it's very easy to say, they're watching Netflix, right? When you don't know their circumstances and you don't know what the reality is. So everyone's background and individual life circumstances influences the way they show up at work. And when you create that psychologically safe workplace, you understand what's going on for that person so you can help them to be the best that they can be and enhance their productivity, which enhances business performance. Without that, you're just going to have a broken system. So I think I really wanted to bring that in there. The circumstances are different. For some people, their internet connection wasn't great at their homes. And so if you're in a team meeting where you expect people to be on video like this, that was not possible for them. Or they live in a very small house and they're working from their kitchen. And so if they put their background on without putting, a nice Zoom background on, you're going to see the stove and people were embarrassed. People were like, my home doesn't look like that. So just understanding where everyone is at and creating that environment and understanding what works for you. Tell me what's going on for you and how can I support you as a leader? What can we do as a team? That for me is that psychological safety. And when you don't have that, you're not going to get the best version of the person, the productivity, let alone the resignation, the great resignation. Productivity is impacted. Output is impacted. The business performance is impacted. And then you have people running around coming up with all sorts of projects and we need to rectify this and rectify that. We should just get back to the basics, get back to being a human being. And you may fix so many of those issues and really get people to go the extra mile, people to put in that discretionary effort because they feel I'm valued here. The fact that I have my child, Mashudu, coming into the call and my boss says, hey, hi, how are you, Jackson? How are you doing? How is school? That's great. Come say hi again. That just makes me calm down and say, that's fine, because you're right. They're bringing, you're getting a peek into their world. And if you're asking them to remove that, hide that, and you show up like a robot, or else you don't fit into this environment, we are not going to get the productivity and the business performance that all companies need right now.
I love that term there. Limana, thanks very much for a very sincere contribution there. That term covering that you've used. And, we've been fortunate in the lead team and leader programs that we run. You sometimes work with a person where they have almost, I must say, lost their identity because they spent so many years wearing different sets of masks that if you ask them, but who are you really? Not who do you think you should be to fit into a certain culture. There's this silence that you met with. And love what you said, there's that it's really, create a space where no masking or no covering really is, I want to say, tolerated, to a degree. I want to hear from Kasana your thoughts on how do we create this? How do we create this space where there is no covering, where people can be themselves, which, again, in our experience, many leaders are actually struggling to really embrace that example that that Limona has shared.
Yanko, it becomes very difficult when you have a leader that does not understand the circumstances that we find ourselves at the current moment. Earlier on, you mentioned an issue about adaptability, and this adaptability challenges us to a point whereby we need to leave the old bad habits of operation within the working space. Because in the past, it was easier for you to just walk into somebody's office and say, thank you, you have done a good job. Yes. And it was easier for you to walk into somebody's office and begin to read the signs and the behavior and the body language that this person is not okay. And the unfortunate situation at this point in time, one would have to be smart enough to use the existing social platforms or to use the existing space that were forced by the circumstances to adapt, and make sure that you carry on with the process of making sure that your teams becomes healthy, your teams becomes productive, your teams becomes a team in themselves. And therefore, as all of us, you can sum it up: open communication, adaptability, changing to the circumstances of the environment will actually make sure that there's a leader, like it or not. And you'll find that because of the circumstances, most of us as leaders or any other leader will relinquish their job because they can't cope with the circumstances. Whereas their team members are looking more than they were expecting when the situation was normal. So as leaders at this point in time, you are working overtime. And if you can't accept that situation over time, unfortunately, you are going to lose your team. Unfortunately, you are going to lose many of your members leaving the team because you are not visible, you are not connected to them, you are not communicating to them on a level of personal level, on a professional level, on a working level, because you still believe that you can't be vulnerable with your teams. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think if there's something that this pandemic has done is it really has differentiated between managers and leaders. I think very, very often in our experience, people get, I'm going to say, promoted to their level of incompetence. You're a great specialist, and because of that, because of your subject matter expertise, we are now just putting you in a position where you need a team or need to lead a team. And there's a difference between management and leadership, and today is not the platform to discuss that, but something that we have definitely seen is that the COVID pandemic and having to do things so intentionally different have revealed to organizations who their true leaders are and who should actually not be in a leadership position. We want to close out the conversation, Mashudu, with input from you on this specific topic. And then I want to, after that, really open the floor for formal questions from the, from the audience.
Janko, I think engagement alone is not enough anymore. We've seen leaders do surveys, to do a dipstick, to get kind of input from employees, but I feel that we're shying away from the real conversations. And from a South African perspective, we know that there are deeper issues that we need to look at. There is some underrepresentation that we need to look at. There's gender parity that we need to look at, not only for South Africa, but it's also a global issue that we need to look at. The pandemic has brought in GBV as the highest issue around the table. So there's issues that we need to look at. There's the isms that we need to look at. There's sexual harassment that is out there. There's still bullying that is happening within the organizations that it still impacts the environment. And those are the issues that kind of creates the environment, because most people, Janko, for now, when they look at jobs, yes, they still look at salary, but it's not the main driver of them looking at organizations. It's more, what kind of culture am I going into? What kind of leadership am I going into? Is it more of an inclusive leadership, or is it more of a parental kind of leadership or transactional kind of leadership? What kind of people am I going to work with? Are they going to look at me as an individual? Would they take me as a holistic me? Would they take me as a holistic me? Would they deal with all the issues that I bring to the table? Would they listen to me as an individual and take my issues? I like what you said, that, our profession has gone through a whole lot of transformation. We've been called I think for those and not giving my age, we've been called personnel. I think it was personnel before, and then we moved to human resources, and then it went into human capital. For some, we've even transitioned to people and culture, which I think we are in the right direction, because now we're looking at people and we're looking into culture. And how do we then ensure that leadership is moving with us when we say people and culture? Because I think some of the leaders, they still see us as paper pushers. They come to us when they need leave. They come to us when they have an IR issue or ER issue, and when there is real issues to be discussed. When you say to them, let's talk about racism, they look at you with open eyes and like, Mashudu, are you crazy? Do you want to break my business? Let's talk about privilege, and they're like, whose privilege? Is it a white privilege or a black privilege? And you're like, privilege, and in general, because there's privilege within the organization. And immediately when you bring bullying, they're like, where was the problem? How do we solve it? In which business area is bullying? And is bullying in general? Let's talk about these issues and actually be realistic about these issues, and the more we talk about them, the more we'll be able to change the environment and be deliberate about it. And I think it's about being deliberate. So if leadership is not deliberate, there would not be any diversity or belonging or inclusion, because those are output. I like the metaphor that you said, because we can invite, diversity is being invited. That is easy to do. We can diversify the organization. But if we need inclusion and equity and belonging, of having a seat at the table and being given an opportunity and being heard, those are part of culture. And how do we ensure that we change that culture? We need to move leadership with them. So yes, we need to change the human capital or human resources into more people and culture, and shift leadership with us and not leave them behind.
I love what you said there, Mashudu, and I think those topics that you mentioned there, in our experience as well, the moment you mention something like that, most leaders will be like, "Ooh, that's an HR thing," or we'll address that with our workforce transition plan or whatever the case might be. In a psychologically safe environment, you engage in that, you talk about that, and just again reminded of the work that Rassie Erasmus did at the Springbok rugby team, where he put that white elephant right in the center of the table, and it just for the benefit of the audience. So because of the inequalities of the past, there is a certain, we use the word quota in South Africa, that has to be met. So there has to be a certain number of players of color, non-white players in the starting 15. And that is something that every single player knows, every single rugby coach knows, but no one wants to talk about it. And Rassie Erasmus just said, guys, we need to talk about this. Because he has found that if you're a player of color, there will always be a little doubt in your mind as, am I here because of my skin color, or am I here because I'm the best in my position? And he wanted to do away with that. And I've been fortunate to work with many sports teams as well. That is still something, unfortunately, because of the way that we're trying to fix things, that people are still struggling with. Am I the quota player? Should I be here? Shouldn't I be here? And he said, let's talk about it. And if you watch Chasing the Sun, if you listen to what people say, they said, look, it was hell of an uncomfortable for about 2-3 weeks. And then it was fine. Everyone got over it. Everyone spoke about it. Everyone understood what their role is, how they contribute. There was no more elephant in the room. It was a completely safe space, but it took a lot of courage from a leader, from a coach, to put that on the table. And I fully agree and support your sentiment, is that we need to do more of that. We can't tiptoe around these things much longer. We need to create that space where we can comfortably talk about these potentially uncomfortable things, and just uncomfortable because we make them uncomfortable. But if we create that space where there's diverse views, there's open communication, it'll be a lot easier. And we're going to create a space that resonates with every single person, where there is no covering, where you can take off your mask, where you can be your authentic self, where you can bring the value that you add to the table. And I think the opportunity is there now. And I just want to reiterate what I said. I think what the COVID pandemic has done is it has revealed the difference between people that can do it and people who can't do it. And I think organizations need to make potentially, difficult decisions where this person is not cut out to be a leader in this new way of work. Okay, let's find a space where we can leverage their strengths. And we see some of our clients have started to do that. From my side, I want to pause there. I want to thank you, big thanks to Lamona, Amashuru, and Kusana for your contribution. I see there has been some chat happening in the chat functionality, so thanks a lot for that. We have come at the point in our 2-hour time slot where I formally want to open the floor for further conversation. From anyone on the call, anything that we shared that resonated with you, let's engage on that. Anything that was shared that you fundamentally disagree with, let's discuss that. This is a psychologically safe space, so let's engage on that. We've got some formal opportunity to do so now. Any questions that you might have, make use of the chat functionality. If you want to enter the conversation, please just do raise your hand. I will unmute you from our side. Let's continue now. So we have Ernst, yes. I see your hand first. I know there's another hand up, but let's first hear from Ernst.
And just quickly, like how do you protect? I mean, with all the things I fully agree and embrace, and fail to understand why we're not doing more of it. How do you protect the organization in that setup from toxic members, from people that don't want to contribute? Because they do exist, right? It is. I think it would be naive to think that we can, just with the right leadership, we can turn everyone into a productive, collaborative, willing and liked member of the organization. So how do you respond when you fail, no matter how good your leadership is, to engage someone in a way that it's a valued but also valuable member of the organization?
So I'm going to have a quick response there, Ernst, and then I want to invite feedback or input from Lamona specifically on this topic. I want to bring it back to a sports team. What do you do in a sports team if a person is not fitting, if they're not performing? You don't select them. In businesses, we will say, no, it's not that easy, but I think it actually is. But we complicate things for ourselves. But Lamona, your thoughts on what Ernst said. What do you do if there is a couple of toxic people, part of a team? How do you deal with that?
So fortunately, I work for an organization that does not tolerate anything like that. And we are guided by a very solid leadership culture and leadership behaviors. And our CEO, Tom Linebarger, says it the best. He says, if you are unable to live out the Commons leadership behaviors, the Commons culture, and our core values, especially of diversity and inclusion and caring genuinely for people, then this may not be the right place for you to have your career. We appreciate all you've done. There may be a better place in the world for you where you can have a career, but this is not the right place for you. And I think we need that kind of courageous, bold leadership from the top, because the tone and the culture is set from the top. And if the tolerating of this kind of behavior is done at the top, then it sets the precedent throughout the organization. And there are many people who have been rock stars in the technical abilities of their job, but have not made it to last in the company because they're unable to live out the core values and unable to demonstrate the leadership behaviors of being authentic, building, being authentic and building trust, vulnerabilities, because these are the things that we look for in leaders. And the organization is about 102, going on to 103 years old now. And one of the success ingredients of Cummins has been its leadership. Through all the years, all the cycles, the downturns, this is the manufacturing industry, which is very cyclical, that changes across the world. We've got operations all over the world. And it is something that we know has carried the organization. So for me, the answer is it's leadership and human capital or people officers or cultural officers, whatever you want to call us. We have a role to be courageous communicators and unearth and show or shine the spotlight on where we see there is, a cancer in the organization. So you may not get all of that support from, leaders, but if you raise it and you raise it in a authentic way and you lean into that conflict and you deal with the issue and you do what Rassi Erasmus said and you put the white elephant there and you say, this is the issue. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about the issue. Let's focus on the issue. Then we can contribute and we can be the catalyst. As Kasana said, everyone has a role to play. And Martin Luther King is my role model, where he says that if you turn your eye to injustice, that's just as good as so evil thrives when you turn your eye away from what is wrong.
No, I love that example, Lamona, and just also reflecting on a conversation I had earlier in the week with another client, just helping them articulating what it means to work there. So you are at Cummins, you share that, you're very clear on that. And I think it's also important when you bring a new person into the organization, they need to know that. This is what we stand for. These are our non-negotiables. And even before they start their journey with you as an employer, they need to know that. Because if it's not, they can be the best person for the job, technically, but if they're not going to fit the culture, you're going to set them up for failure. So at that point in time already, I think it's important that managers and leaders need to make a decision that, look, I like what I see here technically, culturally, this is not the right fit. And we don't think we need to start, or we should be starting this journey together. I think it was very briefly that I saw another hand up. I know, Aura, that you had your hand up, but there was also a hand up from, I think it was Peter. Peter, do you want to, I'm going to unmute you if you still want to contribute. Otherwise, I'm going to give Aura an opportunity. Okay, so I think just a nice acknowledgement from Peter coming through in the chat. Aura, a question from your side?
Well, I'm first going to kind of answer to Ernst's question and also add to what Lamona has said. And I really believe that the human capital or human and culture department needs to really be diligent in bringing in people who fit with the organization culture. And I think that element is often missing. They are, whereas the idea is when hiring to first identify cultural or organizational fit before, instead of first focusing on does this person have the required skills and knowledge and things like that to contribute to the organization. So I think I read not so long ago, I think an article, and in it there was a quote, skills are transferable. You can learn a skill, but organizational fit, like your personality, do you fit in the group, because these values, that has to align with the organization. If that's lacking, it's very difficult for you to want to teach it to someone. And then that's where we end up with situation like what Ernst mentioned, where you just have this, as Lamona said, cancer in your organization that you can't shake. But because you've hired him, and as a leader or as an HR manager, you know that you've hired this person because they came with the greatest skills. So you now feel like you can't just fire the person or the group of people Whilst if you had first focused on ensuring that the person that you are bringing into your organization is fitting with your organizational culture, you weren't going to face that situation in the first place. So that's what I had to say. So I'll just let the other people ask the questions before I ask my own.
So I see that Kosana has also a contribution he would like to make.
Yes, Janko. This issue will open another can of worms, so to say. I think I'm going to align myself with Lamona there, because at the end of the day, many organizations have started with this issue bottom up. And the bottom up, you find that as you reach the middle, there is no synergy between the top and the bottom, because the top is taking it to a different direction. And here one would have probably certain, proposals to put in place, because an organizational culture will also be values and the norms that you have in that particular organization. And you also look into the situation of the leader. And Lamona has just, hit it on the nail to say that, if your leader is not a person who would be bold enough to say, this is our culture in this institution, there is no entitlement. In our world, we talk about this word entitlement, where people think that they're entitled and you can't tell them what to do because of their entitlement. And these are the situations that actually makes this working space to be so toxic enough that you can't even say a word in a very safe space. Then it affects you psychologically. Therefore, I would wish that, this issue, probably in the near future, within the humanistic network, that we can begin to deal with it, because at the end of the day, it creates so many pandemoniums, up to a level where you have dysfunctional teams at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kosana. I see Peter has switched his camera on. He is raising and waving his hand. Peter, I'm going to see if can you unmute yourself? Can I unmute you? Let's just quickly see. I'm asking, you should get a prompt. There we go.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, we can.
Okay. How are you? I'm just trying to make a comment. It was a great session. I'm teaching presently organizational behavior in Poland, and I compare to some classes and also my experience for over 15 years in Canada. Of course, everyone knows Canada is a multicultural nation. Poland, it's becoming more culturally diverse, and my job or research and teaching is to help students become more aware of that difference. For example, if the people now coming from different European countries here become their managers. So we have banks, international banks like you all have in Warsaw, and people have to adjust that their manager, for example, is an expert, IT expert from Asia. So that manager of that manager could be someone from nothing wrong with that, but there are different leadership styles between cultures, between continents, and of course people bring different history, and also they have very much unique experiences of being in Poland. So some people, for example, say that Poland is too expensive and Warsaw is expensive. So in fact, they are really thinking, they have a big challenges with to support themselves with what they make, and they came here to lead the team. I think all it comes down in management and leadership to what we believe in. So the dignity first. It's whether you manage or you work for someone or you lead, if you support, you need to really take a genuine care of that person, and the same comes for a leader to the person that he is supporting, but also the team has to support the leader, because this is not the one-way street. I see it of course, my experience is also corporate experience from Chrysler Canada, from Daimler Chrysler, for when the companies were merged, and teaching in many fine schools. But in fact, what I learned through my life experience, being in Germany, Canada, Poland, and a couple other countries, that you need to be open to new ideas and open to learn. In fact, no matter how much research it is produced, if someone is not open to new ideas and to understanding other cultures and people and differences and their unique circumstances, because all the scientific papers, in my opinion, they are very much enriching our life and enriching science and building on that, since of course Aristotle and Plato before there were written and unwritten researches, and in fact we are building on that, but in fact we need to take a genuine care of the person next to us, and especially in the context of the COVID. I do not need to reiterate this again, as it was said. This is an extra challenge. We all think that we manage this, but I think many things are totally overpowering us. For example, this bringing home work. We don't even know where home and work is. So in fact, many people are close to the burnout. For example, I use swimming sometimes 3 times per week to just break from the phone and so on, and then I become more human. And I think I'm a teacher then. I also sit on one of the companies I help them. Anyway, it was a great session, great 3 days, and of course I give the voice back to you, because I know probably so many people, and also wrapping up the session. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your presentation.
Peter, thank you very much. And I just want to, conscious of time, want to invite a closing comment here from Mashudu, specifically with regards to this. I think it ties in nicely with the concept of diversity, as Peter has said. You've got your own unique leadership style. There are certain norms and principles valued by your organization. You find yourself in a certain culture where there are certain norms. You are leading a very diverse team, but now there's also generational differences that one has to contend with. Maybe sort of closing comment from your side, Mashudu, in terms of how can leaders, what is the 1 or 2 things in your opinion that they need to keep front of mind to make sure that they stay authentic and true to themselves, but not to the extent that it results in counterproductive workplace behavior? So how do you remain authentic, yet you flex your style to create a great working environment?
Janko, it's about being authentic. It's about being the true you. It's about having that open door, and having the two-way communication. I spoke about having the heart and the head and the heart in mind. And there's nothing better than that, because we always, previously we used to say, leave yourself at the door and come to the organization. Imagine if we still kept that. Where would we have left ourselves now that we're working at home? Would I have left myself at the door, and then what? We don't work now because we're working from home. So it's about the authenticity. It's about connecting with your people. It's about having empathy. It's about being your true self and really connecting with your people. And if things are not okay with you, share with your people and say, I am not okay. It's okay not to be okay. And it doesn't mean that you are weak. It doesn't mean that you're not a true leader. True leaders actually show emotion. So whether it's millennials, it's Gen Zs that are coming through. Actually, Gen Zs are going to show us flames, because they are about show me what you have. Show me what you can give me. It's not about this is what it has been done previously. It's not about assimilations anymore. It's about what can you give me. They interview us. We don't interview them. So it's about adaptations as well. Yes, it might have worked for my organization for over 160 years, but then we have to be disruptive and move with the times. And it's about learning and be open for learning. And I know that I've said a whole lot more, but there is hope out there.
Brilliant. Mashudi, thank you very much. I want to formally hand back to Aura to close it, but before I do so, just once again from my side, great thank you, for the opportunity to have shared something to my colleague Alana from Human Interest. Also, thank you very much for your contribution during the presentation. To our fellow panelists, to Lamona, to Kosana, and to Mashudi, thank you very much for your time and for your willingness to share expertise so that we can all just learn and just be better human beings. So I think it's, I'm going to quote a little quote here from All Blacks. They say that better people make better All Blacks. And I think that's a key thing as well for us, is how can we improve ourselves so that we can improve those around us. Aura, back to you.
Hi. Well, thanks again to everybody, the panelists, to you, Janko, for facilitating the session. So it's such a great session. So we are definitely 2 minutes over our time, and I'm smiling because, like I said last year, we are dealing with Ernst, who's in Swiss, and we know Swiss with time, they don't play. 2 minutes late is like 2 hours late in South Africa. So with that said, I just wanted to invite everybody in the session who is in South Africa, who would like to join the South African Network chapter, join the South African chapter of the Humanistic Management Network, to please do so. Feel free to get in touch with Ernst or just write to the South African chapter directly on the Humanistic Management Network website. And yes, I definitely cannot add more to the knowledge that was shared this evening. So this is how I will conclude on my side, and over to you, Ernst. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Aura. Thanks to the panelists. Thanks, Janko, for this excellent moderation, and Ilana also. It was a great session. It was a great closing to our conference, and I got a big smile on my face now. And I'm also quite thirsty, so I will not stay here for too long. But I also want to try to summarize. I mean, we've had 10 chapter sessions from around the world. I mentioned it at the opening here. We've had, I think there were 7 or 8 organizations that were presenting the work they're doing. We've had the lunchtime concerts, which were fantastic, I thought. And I don't know what I'm forgetting. We had the global sessions, the sessions at 2 p.m., where I think yesterday with Mohamed Yunus and Fabio also, and today with William, we could get some excellent insights from them. We will have pretty much everything on this conference available as videos. Currently, you can already go to the Facebook site and look at the live stream, and we will upload the individual session videos onto our website and our YouTube channel. But that will take a while, because right now they are unedited 13-hour video files, and turning them into sort of viewable bits and pieces is going to take a few weeks, but it will be available. And with that, I want to invite you all to stay online, and I'm probably going to unmute everyone. I don't think we'll have a Zoom bomb anymore at this time, at this stage of the conference. And so everyone is unmuted, everyone can turn on their cameras, and let's hang around a little and share some reflections as you wish, and as we are still together here. I think there are some chapter leads here as well. And to start off this reflections on the conference and to talk a little bit about what your experiences were and what we can improve, we're already also looking at how we're continuing over the coming years. And share anything you want, anything you have experienced or think would help for the future, and stick around. At the same time, Abdus has asked me a few times now, if he can have 5 minutes. And I said, of course, because Abdus is representing a very important cause that has been a core of our theme of last conference. Unfortunately, he wasn't there at the time yet, but now he is. And so he is working for an organization for the integration of disabled people. And Abdus, I just gave you the ability to unmute yourself. So he promised to not speak longer than 6 minutes so that we don't turn this into another session. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to hear from him also. Abdus.
Yeah, I thank you. I thank you, Mr. Ernst, accepting my request to speak at the end of this important conference, and it is very honorable for me and very admirable conference that you organized, and which today is, I think, is needed. I am impressed with organization capacity of it, and you cover most of the issues and most of the sectors, and many peoples, including high level professor, very high intelligent people are attended in this conference that I am sure lead to rethink again about for better world. So I want to mention that I am the UN Disability Rights Champion and also the Chief Executive Officer of a organization of persons with disabilities. And you find maybe our organization in the website www.bpksbd.org. I myself is person with disabilities too. I am one of the person instrumental what progress happened in today's world regarding person with disabilities, including UNCRPD. In this humanistic management conference, I want to focus two agenda: human rights and sustainable development. Very shortly, I want to highlight about these issues. I am from Bangladesh, one of the developing nation. Most of our people have lack of understanding to access and enjoy the human rights because lack of quality of education, knowledge, and poverty. Though today world moving with perspective of above 1 billion person with disabilities, till then we are the most sufferer among all for not just rights to education, but rights to access to public service, including education, facilities, government response, opportunities and access to voting system because of an inaccessible infrastructure and many other reasons, including lack of resilience, environment and partnership of a person with disabilities. This institution unacceptable, unethical and discriminatory, and it blocked the values of humanism. My friends, MDG was approved without focusing person with disabilities, but I appreciate UN that SDG agenda included the person with disabilities with slogan "No one left behind." As per different report, today we person with disabilities make up more than 15% of the world population. More than 80% of them lives in poverty. We are the voters, we are the taxpayers, we are the owners of the world equal to all. I request you all please remember this number of us in every of your work action. As a 37 years experienced human rights activist and development initiator, I am confident that we are able to enjoy a better world by achieving sustainable development, sustainable education process and system. If we engage the organization of persons with disabilities effectively in our all actions. So it is important for building partnership with effective organization of persons with disabilities on holistic purposes. If necessary, you may first transfer them capacity and then use them for sustainable development and ensuring human rights for all. I also want to say every department of universities should introduce a subject on persons with disabilities with knowledgeable professors and resource information. Every government must use budget proportionately and evidently to fulfill the needs of persons with disabilities. And I also shared what we do in our organization here. We implementing one for all approach, that is person with disabilities driven right based holistic development approach, that lifting the person with any types of disabilities as center of the development and empower them to take responsibility for the initiation, participation and ownership of the development process. It facilitates the grassroots district and national level organization of persons with disabilities, demonstrate exemplary service that friendly and replicable. We promote employability policies and plans, strengthen institutional support and local structure capacity that contribute to sustainable development agenda, and we also do advocacy and audit in line with SDG and UNCRPD. Finally, I wish to collaborate with Humanistic Management Network and with you all, if possible. I so much thank you, and I really grateful that you invited me to take part in this valuable conference, which is interesting, and I am able to share in many ways of this conference outcome. Stay safe with good health and happiness. And thank you so much, and my claps to you as congratulations from my heart, core of my heart. Thank you very much, Ernst, and your team members.
Thank you. It was great presentation from you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, I'm sure we all agree this was worth leaving the program for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and Abdus, you actually stayed within the 6 minutes. I am very impressed. So now I have not introduced them. They didn't want to come on camera, but I wasn't here alone this year also. So at least I want to say a big thank you to Emmanuel Barreto and to Eleonor Chavez and to my wife, who are standing here on the side and don't want to get on camera. My wife actually fled and wasn't here for most of the time. But the two others were sitting here and helping when and how they could. And at least at the starting point, when at the opening session where my computer froze, I was very happy to have some people here. And so thanks to you. And the people are clapping here. I'll turn the camera to them so you can take a look. Now's the time to wait.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Congratulations for your wonderful conference.
Okay, I may be in trouble now. You see in the background the thank you. No, you don't. Now you see the thank you slide. So that's all I have to say. Turn on your cameras if you want. Stay or leave, and whilst Abdus was talking, and Eleonor actually brought me a beer. So that is what I will be doing now. Everyone.
I think it's
You should come visit the our organization one day. So with your family, please.
I think I'll have to get up to go get myself my glass of wine too.
Very good. Marcus, where's yours? I know you live in a wine growing region and we do appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the middle of the vineyards, but the glass wine is too far away for me now for the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. But you blurred your background, Marcus. We can't see the vineyard.
No, it's dark here, Laura, and it's snowing. So you wouldn't even see it during the day.
Okay. Okay, I'll be back. I'm going to get my own.
Peter, you are I have to check the stats, but I'm pretty sure you are the person who spent most time in this conference. I think you were there from the academic paper presentations, and you're still here now.
Well, I try to always book the time for our conference. conferences, if I can say our, because it's so much learning that you actually then benefit for the entire year, and the partnership formed here also benefits my students. So I guess it's almost for me a pleasure and learning and science to be there. So thank you, our colleagues.
Great to hear that, and make sure to post that on social media so that all the chapter leads see it, that they see that it's appreciated and that they know that they're organizing something that falls on fertile ground. No.
Oh.
Cheers, Aura.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to go in a minute, but hopefully next year or maybe some other venue we meet and we go and we have coffee together, or wine, or even water, but we meet in traditional way.
Very good. Yes, hopefully. I'm at a point where I'm quite happy to travel again, I must say. I don't know when and how that will be possible. Europe is already going into that. Marcus still not. Which camera?
And Dr. Kosatu, what are you having there?
Carlos wants to take a photo of me doing, but I don't understand what he tells me to do. Okay, I should look at the camera and see. Apparently I didn't do the right thing now. So very good. Problem is this glass is very small. But I am ready to travel again. So I hope that, I don't know if what the next conference will be. At the same time, I'm quite happy we did it online again, because if we're looking what's happening in Europe right now, in South Africa also, I hear it's getting not better. And so we were lucky that we didn't plan for not doing it online, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, because things are still a bit uncertain. The one moment you think everything is fine, the next moment things are crashing. So
yeah.
So far,
but Cape Town is very high on my wish list.
You should come.
For when we do the conference physical again. Yes, yeah. and not only for the conference, to come anyways. I only spent like 3 days there, but I loved it. So I'll be back when travel is possible.
Yeah. Definitely looking forward.
And you're in trouble if you're in Switzerland again, Aura. You tell me like I'm here now. You don't tell me like a day before, a week before. You tell me that you're there now.
I feel like you're never going to forgive me for this, Ernst.
No, I'm traumatized.
I'm so sorry. I guess everybody, all the chapter leads now know that I was in Switzerland and we couldn't meet, or we didn't meet.
Exactly. Yes.
I didn't know that, but it sounds like a crime.
No, it is a crime.
Well, Ernst made me feel like a criminal.
And so you should, and everyone. Marcus, you are at Lake Constance once in a while, no?
Sorry?
You are going to Lake Constance once in a while, right?
Constance, the Lake of Constance.
Yeah, am Bodensee.
I have a sister in Switzerland, but during all these lockdowns, in the moment we are in a full lockdown again in Austria, there is hardly a chance to go.
I think I was very lucky. So I was there, 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago? And I left on the Monday when the lockdown partial lockdown was in place, right? And now it's really tight.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, it was great that you were in Austria. It was a pity for me that I had the master's exam to take in Linz. But as you got to know, now we have a good team of 6 people in Austria that are really engaged and contribute.
No, exactly. I mean, it was a shame that you couldn't be there, but in a way it was nicer for me to meet the others because I know you already, right? So we're not losing too much.
That's hard to hear.
We're online, we can still know each other well enough that we can get stuff done with a Zoom meeting. And meeting the new people was valuable, was nice.
Yeah.
gonna have to go. All the best, guys, and see you soon. Or we're gonna keep in touch. Bye.
Bye, Peter. Thank you.
Bye. All the best. Have a good day, good night, and so on. Bye.
And good dreams.
Thank you, Peter. Bye-bye. And I think Ruth has done a very clever thing, right? Ruth has got a Zoom picture that looks like she's there.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And it looks like she's thinking. Like...
Yeah, no, deeply. And it took me a while. I looked at her and I thought, oh yeah, Ruth is there. And then I looked again and oh, she doesn't move a lot. And then I looked again and no, she can't sit there without moving in the same way for 8 hours. That's not possible.
It's definitely an interesting picture. I think I should copy that.
I'd say she should make a picture with a pint in the hand.
We can Photoshop it, and then I'll as host or whatever I am, I can change the pictures probably of people. So if she doesn't pay attention, we'll give her a funny face, and then she has to pay for just putting that photo there.
Yeah, definitely. But,
yeah. There are still some students there from Austria. Would you like to turn on the camera and join in? I'm just curious.
My guess is they just never log out.
Aha, okay.
To impress their professor.
No.
Oh, they proved you wrong. They proved you wrong.
It was just a provocation.
Did you do one of the videos?
No, it's a different lecture. It's a different course. Today are the students from the leadership training.
Okay, but she's turning the camera off again after 2 seconds. That's,
yeah, that was...
Thank you. That's another criminal offense here.
Oh, Detective Ernst.
Did you
finding all the criminals?
Right. Did you participate in any of the sessions other than the last one now?
The first day of confinement.
What do you mean, Ernst?
Ob Theresa in anderen Sessions noch dabei war.
Today.
Ich habe, kann ich auf Deutsch antworten?
Nein, gar keine.
Na, ich habe mir den Austria-Chapter habe ich nachgeschaut über Facebook und jetzt war ich beim South Africa Chapter dabei und am Vormittag war ich ein bisschen, aber da war ich in der Arbeit. Also den habe ich so nebenbei mitbekommen.
Aber der Facebook-Stream hat funktioniert?
Das hat funktioniert, ja.
Okay, good. Sorry, let's go back to English now. Teresa watched part of it on Facebook, and so the live stream seems to work. But I'm just realizing that you're saying that, because I'm realizing we're still live on Facebook and we don't need to be that anymore. So I just stopped it, and I'll stop the recording also. But yeah.
Great. And have a nice evening. Thanks a lot.
You too.
No, I'll stay. I just wanted to give Teresa a way to turn
okay, good. That's great. Thanks for being here, though.
Chatting away, so there is no need to do a co-speech or something, Teresa. But thanks for showing up. Brilliant.
Can I have the rest of the beer, please? What? Been sitting on the sofa for 3 years. Let me have a beer without laughing at me.
Dina, you are there too. Would you like to show up? Dina, she did a great job with preparing the Austria session.
Oh, and I am so embarrassed with Nadav.
Yes.
I mean, I only realized after because I couldn't check my email and stuff, and he wasn't registered beforehand. And the setting for the tickets was to 1,000, and so they were all sold, and they were only until I upped that again. They were only the donation tickets available. So he donated 2 francs to join me. So we forced the speaker to pay for being able to join. I have to send him an email and apologize.
No, but we had actually, he even made a surplus engagement because we had a preparation meeting, online.
Okay.
And Nadaf Eyal was there, all the speakers were there. Liz and Nadaf and Ian, they all appeared and we talked, chatted away, exchanged all organizational details and everything. I found that brilliant that they take the time to appear in advance.
Yeah, and he was great. It was interesting hearing him, I thought.